All right, JP Football Fanatics fans, what's going on? This is your boy JP here, aka James, back with you once again for your Week 14 predictions. I just want to start off before I go any further as far as what we're going to be talking about in the games we're going to be talking about. I just want to say to you guys, thank you so much for being patient with me. I know it's been a couple of days. Usually I do them on Wednesday nights, and I get them posted to you as soon as possible, but these last couple of nights have been, definitely have been feeling under the weather, not feeling the actual greatest or anything like that. So it felt better for me just to be able to do it in the afternoon. So that way I was able to gather my thoughts together, be able to talk a little bit about some games, catch up a little bit because it's been a rough couple of days for me as far as my health goes. I am feeling a lot better though, so I appreciate for those who have approached their concerns and everything like that. So I am feeling a lot better. Uh, it's still a little bit under the weather, but definitely not anywhere as bad as it was previously. Um, but I do feel a lot better, and I wanted to be able to get this out to get to you guys like my picks as soon as possible. So I just want to say thank you so much for your patience. It really does mean a lot to me. So thank you so much for your patience and generosity and your understandings too, as far as everything else that goes. So I'm just getting a couple of things gathered together. While you guys are waiting up, just please do me a favor, drop a like on this video. Make sure that you also hit the comment button down below too as well. And also, if you have not done so already, please I'm telling you, please be able to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as I do pull up that logo, that lower third there for you. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Uh, you know, I've been wanting more. I've just been wanting more people to keep going into. You know, uh, just want to keep getting more people into the subscribe. I'm trying to get more people into the realm of football, and I just want to be able to talk about all that stuff with you guys. And the more that I get you guys more involved in everything that's going on in the football world and the NFL world and what have you, you know, really helps me out a lot. And it really helps me get into like conversations with everybody as far as like, what your thoughts are and, just keeping up to date with everything. So, and also just providing new content as well too. That's also another thing that I find really important as well as finding new content to really talk about. So if you could do all those things for me, like the video, drop a comment down below, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bells, you know, you got everything will be just fine. If you do all those things, everything's gonna be just fine. And the more that you guys are able to do that for me, the sooner that I will be able to build more an audience in that way. So that way, I can have some people tune in every week and be able to watch any kind of content based off of football relation and things that are their favorites that they want to hear about at that time. So do all those things, all will be good. So thank you so much. Really means a lot to me. So thank you. So just give me 1 second too while I do take a sip of my drink real quick, and then I'll talk a little bit about what my pick was on Thursday. I'm not going to talk a lot about that because I am going to talk about that game when I do recap, my weekly recap for week 14. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I just wanted to say who I picked and why did I decide to pick them. But just give me 1 second so that way I can take a sip of my drink real quick, okay? All right, so let's go ahead. So week 14 Thursday night football. There were a lot of people were talking about this one. The Rams and the Raiders. Gonna be completely honest with you, I didn't get to watch the full game yet. I didn't get to watch any highlight videos of it yet. But Baker Mayfield, we talked about it in my weekly recap video. That Baker Mayfield, I was hoping he would go to the 49ers, but he ended up getting claimed off the waivers on Tuesday with the Rams, and he got to play in his first game with the Rams on Thursday night. And my pick here was going to be the Raiders. I thought this was a game that the Raiders had to win, and this was a for sure game for the Raiders that I thought they had plenty of opportunities where they could have won this game. But they fell apart, and they were leading 16-3. It was another, almost two possession lead that they had this season. This is their fourth game that they had with like a kind of a comfortable enough lead, and they fell apart in the second half, and that's how they ended up losing that game. But I thought the Raiders were the better of the overall team because of their injury status. The Raiders have dealt with some injuries. They don't have Darren Waller right now, so Foster Moreau is trying to be the tight end. He's not really doing anything as spectacular as Darren Waller would. But with Josh Jacobs on the ground, he's been having a great 3 weeks of providing a run game for the Raiders. And Devontae Adams and Derek Carr were one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos. They were starting to really connect and really learn together about the game of football. They were about to really click with that offense that McDaniels was having going on with them. But they kind of fell apart in this game. And I thought they had every opportunity to do it. And I thought they had the better advantage than the Rams did because of all the injuries that they're dealing with, and with Baker Mayfield for uncertainties about him actually getting the opportunity to play on Thursday night due to him only arriving on Tuesday, and for him to walk in on the field on Thursday night with basically not knowing really any of his receivers, not really knowing much of the playbook. He came in and he beat the Raiders in dramatic fashion. But I picked the Raiders to win because I thought this was a game that the Raiders had to win. I thought this was a game that they could have definitely taken advantage of because of all the injuries that the Rams are dealing with right now. And with their run game and how strong it really is, I know that's something that's kind of, the Rams do a good job with stopping the run. But I thought they would have done a much better job than what they've been playing with as of what they did in this game. So I took the Raiders. I said they would probably cover the spread, but they didn't, unfortunately. So, yeah, they ended up losing that game. Like I said, I'll talk more about this game on Thursday. I'm sorry, on Tuesday, so that way we could talk more about that particular game. So, yeah. All right. Let's talk about the next game that's going on. This is a game that could be potentially one of the games of the week and one of the most important games of the week. The Minnesota Vikings, who are going to Detroit to play the Detroit Lions. Now, some people might find this as a surprise that the Detroit Lions are favored by 2.5 points, or at least they were when I got these graphics organized on late Tuesday night into Wednesday night. So, a little bit of a shocker there that the Lions were actually favored by a 10-2 team. But I kind of decided this was kind of it's not really that big of a surprise for me for the Vikings to be like an underdog to the Lions, and I'll tell you why. One of the reasons is because the Lions at home are they're one of the best home teams in the NFL, at least for this year. They've been playing really, really well at home. And with the last several weeks of how they've been playing, minus even with the loss to the Buffalo Bills, they've been playing pretty well. The Lions have been, I think, defensively, especially against the run, has been quite surprising to me. I think they've been playing, I think they were kind of playing more to expectations as far as offensively goes. I think they do a good job with running the ball. Jared Goff has been playing pretty solid. He does a really good job with his play action passes, with running outside of the pocket and making some throws outside of the pocket, which is something that he did quite often when he was with the Rams. Defensively, they're still kind of slow in the secondary. They don't quite do well in the secondary. They're not very good there. But where they are really good in is that they have a really good edge rusher in Aiden Hutchinson. And I think with having him as your edge rusher, I think that really solidifies more as your defense as far as the stopping the run, which is something that the Lions historically are never really good at. But they have been doing a pretty good job with stopping the run within the last couple of weeks. So that's something to really praise the Lions about. And offensively, they've just been doing really well. I think Jared Goff is having a pretty solid season, like he did last year. But actually, he's playing better than he did last season. So that's something that's really good to see from a perspective that nobody really saw that. Thinking that he would have a better season than Matthew Stafford did. A little bit of a shocker there for some people. And probably some people didn't expect the defense to really get a little bit better than what they were at the beginning of the year. So that's something to look into as well. The Vikings are good offensively. They can pass the ball, they can run the ball, they can do whatever they want on offense. The only thing I don't trust, which I think they're going to have a tougher time with, which is one of the only few teams that that will probably have some success with as far as the Vikings go, is their secondary and defense, pass rush that's very slow. And that's pretty much it, really, with that secondary pass rush. The things that Minnesota's defense is not typically very good at, I can see the Lions taking advantage of. So that's why. And it's also a home game for Detroit, too. Kirk Cousins and company, they usually play well when they're at home, despite that game against the Cowboys where they got utterly embarrassed. But this is one of the games that the Vikings, they've pretty much clinched their own division of the NFC North, so they've already clinched the division pretty much. So really, if they win this game, doesn't really matter. But if they want to get to that race of the top of the seed of the NFC, this is probably one of the wins that they're probably going to want to get. But I think this is going to be like a slight upset, but it's not that crazy to really think about. But I think the Lions pull off a slight upset here. It's not going to be that surprising if the Lions do win this game, but I am going with the Lions here because I think the Lions are one of the very few teams left with the season on the line for a lot of teams going on right now, and with slim pickings going on as far as like that race to that last wild card spot in the playoffs for the NFC. The Lions are one of the very few teams. It's along with them, Seattle, uh, Washington. There's a couple of teams that could be at that cusp there where they could, potentially sneak in a spot. I think this is a game where Detroit gets it this week. I think they get that. I think they take advantage of what they can do as long as Dan Campbell and his coaching staff does not make any silly mistakes, coaching errors, and if they don't play stupid football and they play good defense and they make good offensive calls and they protect Jared Goff, which they've been doing pretty well in this year. I don't have any concerns with that offensive line for the Lions because they are actually pretty good in that department of offensive line. They're pretty good in. I think the Lions can win this game. I think coaching staff really plays a big factor in there, and it's really going to be under a lot of pressure for the coaching staff to get them this win here, because if they don't get this win here, could be definitely some differences in coaching, and maybe could draw some attention to coaching staff in the near future. So, but I'll take the Lions. I like to see the upset. Like I said, I like the Vikings this year. I really like them a lot. I love Kirk Cousins, but I like to see an upset. I kind of want to see the Lions do well. They've been doing well the last couple of weeks. The Vikings are good, but I think the Lions come out as the better team here. I think they play better when they're at home. Jared Goff plays better when he's at home and inside the dome. So that's going to make a difference there as well. So I'm going to take the Lions at home, and I would take them to cover the spread of 2.5 if you're able to do that. All right, next game, you've got the Baltimore Ravens, who are going to play their rivals of the Pittsburgh Steelers, which the Steelers are favored by 2.5 points. Also, this game is in Pittsburgh, Heinz Field. Just as an FYI, I'm sure a lot of you football fanatics have already heard, Lamar Jackson will not be starting in this game. He is going to be out for this game with an injury. I believe it's an ankle injury as far as what they said from last week, that it's an ankle injury. So that's going to put a damper on things, but Tyler Huntley will be in his place instead. Tyler Huntley, a little bit of a rocky play last week. He did play a little bit rocky-like. Not really his greatest game there, but at the same time, not particularly his worst. But definitely, something to really be considering of as well, especially when you are facing a really good defense of the Steelers. Now, the only difference is with the Ravens playing the Steelers versus when they played the Broncos last week. The Broncos' offense has just gotten steadily worse. They've been going. That's gotten a lot worse. whereas the Steelers' offense is still not very good, but they've been getting better. I think Kenny Pickett and George Pickens has a special connection with one another. I think they play better with one another, and I think they've been finding that connection together where they do play well. So that's something that's really special for them to see there. But as far as the Ravens' defense is talked about, I'm a little concerned about how their defense is going to play. They've been very, very, on and off this year. They've had some really good defensive games this year with certain games, like when they played against the Saints, a couple other games that they played in as well. They played a good defensive game against the Bengals. Played a pretty decent defensive game against the Browns and what have you. And they played a pretty good defensive game with the Jets too. But there's some concerns about the Ravens too, about their defense, where they get into like these big leads, like when those four losses that they had, which were against the Dolphins, the Giants, the Jags, and there's one in particular that they also had too that they blew, a 10+ point lead. I can't remember particularly what that game was, uh, but I'll think of it when that time does come. But those are particularly games that the Ravens had to have won. And if they were to have won those four losses that they got right there, then they typically would be probably an undefeated team. I think this is the week that the Steelers could pull off the upset, a slight upset in some ways, because especially in Heinz Field, it's a tough place to play. These two teams know each other very, very, very well. John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, two very good coaches that really know each other's schemes. They know how to play really good defensive, low-scoring games. They've played a lot of really exciting games over the years. I've always enjoyed watching this game, these kind of rivalry games with the Steelers and the Ravens, because of the years of when Joe Flacco was playing with the Ravens and Ben Roethlisberger was playing. Those were always like real exciting, real close, either high-scoring or low-scoring games, and both defenses really came on and would really scare the crap out of these quarterbacks and players because of how intense the rivalry really is. But I'm going with the Steelers. I think the Steelers win this game. I think they take advantage of the fact that Lamar is not going to be playing in this game. I think the defense comes to play. I think with T.J. Watt back into the lineup, I think it makes a big difference for the Steelers to play good defense, and I think they can do that. And without Lamar Jackson, if you think about it, last year, the Ravens around this time last year were about an 8-3, 8-4 team, and this is where like the rest of their season they went on like a 5-game losing streak without Lamar Jackson. He was out for the rest of that regular season. Not that I think the Ravens will do that again, but if the defense doesn't play the way that they know they can play based off of their depth of how good their defense can be, then the Steelers definitely win this game. I think Mike Tomlin will get the better of uh, the Ravens in this one, but I'm taking the Steelers to win this game. I think they will win this game, but it's a game that I'm not comfortable betting on, or nor would I recommend anybody betting on this game, because I think it's a rivalry game that's very intense, and it's a game that it's like an either way kind of game because of how not so good the Steelers offense is, and as far as like the Ravens defense as well is also very spotty too. That's going to make some differences there as well. So that's why I'm not comfortable with betting on the game, but I take the Steelers as a straight up though, and that's how I'm going to go with that. All right, next game you've got the Cleveland Browns, the battle of the two teams from Ohio, the Cleveland Browns, who are going to Cincinnati to play the Cincinnati Bengals, who the Bengals are 6.5-point favorites. So Joe Burrow has yet to beat the Cleveland Browns in his NFL career. He has not beaten the Browns yet. He has not beaten Baker Mayfield when he played for the Browns. He did not beat Jacoby Brissett. And yet he has yet to beat Deshaun Watson's version of the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns last week had a very ugly win against the Texans. And it was basically because of defensive plays that helped them score, kept themselves in the game. And special teams plays too, really big special teams touchdown plays, defensive plays that were really good for scoring as well, and field goals too, getting them in the field goal range. It was the reason why the Browns won that game, not Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson might get it back in this game, but I feel like this is tough because you're already going into like week 2. Your season's already on the line for a potential playoff spot. You're playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who are pretty hot now. I know a lot of people don't want to really talk about the Bengals as being hot, but they are. They're one of my Super Bowl favorites, at least at this point in the season right now. So it's a tough one to really decide there. But at the same token, too, it's also a bad matchup for the Bengals. And the reason why I say that is because of how well the Browns can run the ball. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, when he's given the opportunity, can run the ball very well. We also don't want to forget about Deshaun Watson's capability of running outside of the pocket, making plays on his feet. That's something that's very well possible, too, that the Bengals might have problems stopping. And with the receivers, if Watson has a good day and a better connection with Donovan Peoples-Jones or Amari Cooper, those are going to play some really big factors in that aspect. And yeah, I mean, this is a very not the greatest matchup here, but I'm going to take the Bengals. I don't believe if Joe Burrow can go 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now, at least top 2 or top 3 at the very least. If he can go 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes, who is the league's best quarterback, then I can't expect him to not lose to the Browns again. I'm going with the Bengals, but I'm going to take the plus 6.5 for the Browns because I know the history already with Joe Burrow against the Browns. It's not very pretty. We know he hasn't won there yet, so it's very well possible he will lose to the Browns, but I can't see him losing I believe it's going to be 4 straight for him, 4 straight times to the Cleveland Browns. So I think he has an opportunity. He can take advantage of some things. So I think really at this point, it's really going to be reliant on the defense to make those big stops that they weren't able to do last time with making the big stops. And that was like against the run. They weren't able to stop the run last time. They weren't able to stop Amari Cooper in the passing game from Brissett. But it's Deshaun Watson now. And with Deshaun Watson, it's going to make it very difficult. Might make things a little bit difficult, but might make some things a little bit easier too. Just because with the fact that Deshaun Watson has not really been with the team that long yet, and he only played 1 week of football, so that's very well possible that could be the case too. But I'm taking the Bengals to win the straight up, but I will take the Browns plus 6.5 though, because this game could typically go either way. All right, next game you got the New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are favored by 9.5 points. Is what they said last time. And they still are 9.5 points. As far as I know, Mike White is still the starting quarterback. So I guess that's something that's good to really say. I don't know per se. But he's still the starting quarterback here. But do I really see the Jets beating the Bills twice in a row this year? I don't think so. I think splitting the series this year is pretty reasonable. But I don't see anybody in the division being able to sweep the Bills. Those couple of times when the Bills did lose, like when they lost to the Jets and they lost to the Dolphins, because they are 1-2 in their division, they were away games. They were away games where the Miami Dolphins, their heat made a big difference in that game, and that's something that Buffalo is not used to. And with the weather in New Jersey is different of an elevation than it is in Buffalo, New York. So I don't typically see the Jets sweeping the Bills, although I think it's a possibility that the Jets can keep this a game, no question about it. I think they can definitely keep it a game. But I think at the end of the day, I don't believe Josh Allen is going to get owned again by Sauce Gardner and this Jets defense. I think he'll have a difficult time, but I don't think he's going to get owned by them and be 0-2 this year against the Jets. So I'm taking the Bills to win. I think they have a good head on their shoulders right now. I think they're kind of turning the corner a little bit after last week's performance against the Patriots. After the week before that with their performance of the Lions, that was a little bit on the iffy side. But last week's impressive performance by the Patriots, I think they're going to kind of keep that winning tradition going. I think they're going to win this game. I think they have the opportunity to do it, but I don't think they're not going to cover the 9.5. So would worry about taking the spread on this game, but more so focus on taking like either the over under or the money line on this game, because I think the 9.5 is going to be a lot for these two teams right here, especially for the Bills to cover that spread, because I think it's going to be a closer game and a much tougher game than people think. I think the Bills can win it straight up. I will say they will win it straight up, but I think 9.5 is just a little bit too high. Just going to say that right now. So let me just take a quick drink of my drink here real quick, and then I will talk about the next game, which shouldn't take too long. Okay, next game, you've got the Houston Texans, the 1-10-1 Houston Texans, who are already eliminated from playoff contention, who are going to Dallas, Texas, to play the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are favored by 16.5 points. Just going to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Yes, they kept it a little bit impressive last week, a little bit closer last week against the Browns, but this is the Cowboys we're talking about, okay? It's the Cowboys we're talking about. Their defense is phenomenal right now. Top 3 unit. They are just coming off of a dominant performance against the Colts. There's no reason why I shouldn't pick the Cowboys here. The Houston Texans are just bad. And if you have to turn to Kyle Allen to be your starting quarterback now, you've got a lot of problems there. So I'm taking the Cowboys. I'm just going to say that right there. I'll take the Cowboys. I'll take the 16.5 for the Cowboys. And I take them to win the straight up, because right now with the Texans and how they're playing right now, obviously they're not a very good team. We knew that going into the season. But last week's performance was a bit of a fluke. It wasn't because of their defense playing well or their offense clicking. It was more of like big defensive plays and understanding where Deshaun Watson was at that point in the season. It was just more of like Deshaun Watson getting off some of that real bad rust with being 700 days out of playing football. So don't let that game tell you anything different. They're still not a very good team. And when they go to play the Cowboys, it's not going to be any prettier. They probably could score 60 points on the Texans. If they could score 54 on the Colts, they'll probably score at least 60 on the Texans. So not too crazy to take the 16.5 there with the Cowboys. All right, next game, you've got the Philadelphia Eagles. 6.5 point favorites to their rivals of the New York Giants, who are going to play this game in New Jersey, MetLife Stadium. So this game is always a good rivalry. Not going to lie here. I mean, as a Giants fan, I've always enjoyed watching the Eagles-Giants games. Not going to lie there. I've always enjoyed watching the rivalry games every year. I've always enjoyed having those random debates with some family members who are Eagles fans in my family. More so of like my cousin's side, my cousin's husband and stuff like that, who always likes the Eagles. His family loves the Eagles. And then, like, most of us are Giants fans. Like, always fun to talk about the Eagles and the Giants in that aspect there. So, this is going to be a nice game. It's going to be a really good game. Regardless of how good or bad these two teams are, these two teams never seem to disappoint. They always seem to really play a flat-out really good football game, despite of the records and despite of how well they play or not. It's always a good game between these two. It's just like the Ravens and the Steelers. So, sorry about that. Uh, so I think 6.5 is a little too much. I think that's a lot for the Eagles to cover. Now, last week I was impressed with the way they played against the Titans. I'm not gonna lie, and I did say that last week in my weekly recap. I did say that last week. They were impressive against against the Titans last week. I will say that that is very true. But at the same time, there are some games they have not been very good in lately. Like they didn't play well against the Colts. They didn't play well against the Commanders. They definitely did not play well against the Texans, what they should have blown out by like a lot more than what they did. So there are flaws of the Eagles that we have seen from the Eagles that are very noticeable and something that the Giants can take advantage of, especially if you take a look at their defense and how teams run on the ball with them. Especially if you look at the Packers and how they ran against the Eagles, they did a pretty good job with running against the Eagles on their defense. I thought they did a good job with running on the Eagles' defense. And that's something that I think we can see the Giants take advantage of. So, am I going to say the Eagles are going to win, or am I saying the Giants are going to win? Thank you. So, am I saying the Giants are winning this game, or am I saying the Eagles are going to win this game? Well, again, it depends. I think this is a game that you kind of have to look back and forth in. We know what the Eagles' record is right now. They're 11-1. They're the top of their conference. They're at the top of their division. So that's already telling you a whole bunch right there. So they deserve all that. All that. That's true. But this is the only team they have not played in their division yet. And typically when the Eagles play in division games, this is where other teams know each other very well in their own division. And this is where they start to see and they know each other's flaws a little bit. So I'm not opposed, or I'm not how do I even word this? I personally believe that there's definitely good possibilities that the Giants can pull off an upset. That's what I'm trying to say. I think there's possibilities of the Giants being able to pull off an upset here against the Eagles. I really do. The Giants, as they've been the last couple of weeks, what they were like against the Commanders last week was not very pretty. They were playing well, but up until the very last 2 minutes of the game and into the overtime period is where they should have really dominated and won the game. But at the same time, with a couple of their other games that they've been playing as of late, with games like the Cowboys, games like the Detroit Lions, those kind of games where they had opportunities to win, they kind of just drove them away. The Eagles are going to keep them around in this game. So I think this is going to be a slight upset here. The Giants are a pretty decent team. I don't think they're a top 10 team right now. I don't think they're probably not even a top 15 team right now. But what they are right now is they're a very well coached team. Brian Dable is doing very good with containing Daniel Jones and being a good pocket passer, being a good passer overall. He's building this team to be the best that they can be, despite with all the injuries and the talent that they do have offensively. And with Wink Martindale and his defense, they're pulling together the best team that they possibly can. And they've proven this year with almost every single one of the games that they played this year, they keep them in some really, really, really close games. I think just really only one or two games that they weren't really in this year. One of them was being the Detroit Lions. They weren't in that game, in the Seattle game that they weren't really quite in the entire time. But the rest of their games that they played this year, they've been in almost every single one of their games. And I think they're going to figure out a way to contain Jalen Hurts. I think they're going to give, really take away the running ability that we know Jalen Hurts is really good in typically. And we've seen that happen with when they played Lamar Jackson, who's a running quarterback. And I think they're going to do the same thing with the Eagles. So I think the Giants can pull off an upset here. I think they win the game. But I think still take the Eagles in 6.5 because there is a good chance that the Eagles could win. They could win on like a last-second drive to win the game, either by a field goal or a touchdown. But I think the Giants win the straight up in an upset, and a very slight upset. All right, next game, we've got another division game here. There's a lot of division games going on this weekend. Next one is the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Tennessee Titans. So the Titans are 3.5-point favorites, which is not a surprise here because of how disappointing that the Titans have been the last few weeks, especially what they were last week against the Eagles. I think that was just an utter embarrassment with the way of how they've been playing, how they played against the Eagles. Offensively is something that we kind of figured that the Titans would be this year. I didn't think offensively they were going to be able to keep up with the Titans, with the Eagles, I'm sorry. Even with Derrick Henry, I think that was going to be a lot to ask for Ryan Tannehill and company to do without A.J. Brown. But A.J. Brown definitely torched up, and he absolutely owned his former team. So that was a nice, impressive win for the Eagles. But the Titans this week are playing the Jags. The Jags on paper are very, very inconsistent, but they've got talent that can play well when they are focused, when they are coached well, and when they have better play calling. But Trevor Lawrence is questionable for this game. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing in this game after an injury. And if he's not ready to go, there's a good chance that the Titans could win this game. But if Trevor Lawrence does play in this game, it'll make things kind of different for the Titans. But I think what Doug Peterson has done well with this year with the Jags, and you got to give them credit where credit is due, is that the Jags, every single game that they played in this year, they've been in almost every single game that they've been in this year. Whether if it's a win, whether if it's a loss, they've been in almost every single one of their games this year, which is something that you've got to credit to both the coaching staff and you got to credit to really the players too. But mostly you got to really give the credit to the coaching staff because of how immature and how inexperienced that these players are. They're a young team. They're a young, feisty team. They're kind of like the Detroit Lions of last year a little bit. I mean, I think they're better than the Lions were last year after getting dismantled by them last week. But I think they're a better 2021 version of the Detroit Lions just based off of their talent, based off of coaching. And I think they take more risks and they're more within like the realm of their games. If they were to have won a couple of those games that they were in, then they were leading by, like if they were to have beaten the Colts, that could have made a little bit of a difference and maybe that would have sparked something in the team. But the Jags are just very inconsistent. There's just a lot of things about the Jags that, they're still trying to really figure out for themselves. They're trying to really find like their identity and who they're going to be at the time, who they're going to be and what they're going to be in the near future. So that's something to keep an eye on. But, the Titans, however, are also struggling too. The last couple of weeks, it's definitely been shown the way they've been playing offense. Ryan Tannehill, not particularly his fault of why they're losing games, but I think it's more because of offensively, there's not much left for him to throw the ball to, and with Traylon Burks, who looked like he was getting back into the swing of things, it looked like he was starting to get involved in the offense with the last couple of weeks of performances that he's had. Even with that big touchdown pass before leaving the game against the Eagles. And with Derrick Henry getting a little bit older, and after with that injury a little bit that he did have, last year with the foot injury, he's not quite himself. He's not the same old Derrick Henry that he used to be. Okay, he's not the same old Derrick Henry that he used to be. But what really keeps the Titans in these games, minus last week's game, is because of their defense. Their defense is very good. They do well in terms of stopping the run, despite last week. They're a little bit slower in the secondary, but they do good. They have a good defensive line. They can get to the quarterback. They can get some pressure on the quarterback. They can stop the run a little bit. And there are some things they can do well on defense that really, really keeps them in the games, which they've been doing all year. And then offensively, too, if Derrick Henry can't get anything going, and that's the thing with Titans. If they can't get anything offensively going with Derrick Henry, and if they can't get anything going with the passing game, that which forces them to get into the passing game, then they don't do well at all and they lose. So this is a game that the Titans have to win, which I think they should be able to win this game. If Trevor Lawrence does not play in this game, Titans will definitely win. But I'm taking the Titans to win. I trust Mike Vrabel a little bit more than I trust Doug Peterson. And I trust the Titans a little bit more than the Jags in terms of, like, the consistency and the defense and offense and stuff like that. They're just a better coached team right now. They're also still trying to rejuvenate. They're still trying to really find themselves a little bit. But, yeah, I'm taking the Titans to win. But it's a game I'm passing up on betting on because I think it's a game that, a division game, and with both teams not really playing all that great as of late, can't really take on that risk of betting on the game. All right. Hold on one second. I'm just going to take another drink here real quick. Please be sure to drop a like down on the like button on here and leave a comment down below. And also be sure to hit that subscribe button as well if you're able to. Thank you. All right, next game. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Denver Broncos. The Chiefs are 9.5-point favorites. The Chiefs, typically, we already know this, they're not usually very good at covering the spread. I get that. So I'm not going to take the Chiefs spread, but I'm going to take the Chiefs to win the game straight up. The Broncos are done, man. The Broncos are just toast. They're done. They've absolutely, positively pooped out this season. Offensively, they're not good at all. They can't run the ball. They can't pass the ball. They can't protect. Russell Wilson looks washed. Coaching staff is a mess. The Broncos are done. The only thing they can do, which in their franchise as of late against Patrick Mahomes, has been able to form up really good defensive plans of how to stop Patrick Mahomes. But other than that, man, like the Broncos I have not seen one good game this year from the Broncos. Or at least I have not heard at least one good game from this team this year. Or have watched one good game. Even on primetime. They've just not been good. And they've been in a lot of games this year. Even with their losses, they've lost a lot of one-score games. But their offense is just terrible. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to really say about it. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it, but their offense is just bad. And it's not because of, they're just bad. And I don't think they're going to be able to do anything on a good pass rush of the Chiefs either. Their defense isn't great. They can probably run a little bit, but that's pretty much it, though. I can't see the Broncos being able to pass much on the Chiefs defense. I can't really see them really with Russell Wilson really getting a lot of I can't really see Russell Wilson really getting out of the pocket and making some plays on his feet. Like, there's not a lot I can really see with Russell Wilson really doing with the Broncos in this game. I really don't see a whole lot going on there. And it makes it hard for me to take the Broncos to win. It really does. Like, I just don't know how else to really explain it. But despite with the Chiefs, taking the Chiefs straight up, I'm not taking them to cover the spread because they're typically not good with covering the spread. I think it will probably be at least a 10-point game. It might be a lower scoring game. It might be like a 20-10, maybe 19-13 kind of a game, but nothing more than that, though. Because I think defensively, the Broncos have not been the problem at all. I think their defense is excellent and very elite, but their offense is just so bad. They can't do anything. So that's why I say their defense is going to keep them in the game, but they're not going to do anything to really score on Patrick Mahomes to beat them. All right, next up, you've got the Carolina Panthers, the reviving Carolina Panthers, who are going to Seattle to play the Seahawks. The Seahawks are 4-point favorites. I'm going to take Carolina to win, and I probably will take Carolina in the +4. I'm taking the Panthers because I think what I saw against the Broncos last week, and with them releasing Baker Mayfield, there are some things that I saw from the Panthers. I think since benching Baker Mayfield, since that injury to Baker Mayfield, and I think back in week 7, I think that was the week when they played the Atlanta Falcons, I've seen a lot of upside from the Panthers. And yes, I've been very doubtful with the Panthers this year, but I got to give them credit where credit is due. I think they've been trending upward. I think since PJ Walker has started, he's not a great starting quarterback. I would never have him start in a quarter in this league, like be a full-time starter. But I think since that spark came in, and where they lost that game in overtime because of a stupid call of DJ Moore taking off his helmet after like an insane 62-yard touchdown pass from PJ Walker. I think since that overtime loss, I think they've just been on a streak here where they're winning some games. They're keeping themselves in games. They look more lively. And I think the defense is showing that they're a good defense. And I think since the time of when they've moved on from Christian McCaffrey and released him and traded him away to the Niners, I feel like this is like we're starting to see more of like other things that the Panthers can do. And they do have some good enough running backs that are serviceable that could do some good things. And I think with DJ Moore, I think he's getting better too. I think he's having a better connection with either PJ Walker. He'll probably start having a better connection now with Sam Darnold. If Sam Darnold plays better, I think defensively, I think they're playing better defensively. Running the ball, they can run the ball. And I think coaching staff, since getting rid of Matt Rule, I think the offense has been adjusting more under Steve Wilkes, who's the interim coach. I think they're adjusting to him and his style a little bit better. So there's things to look forward to the Panthers' future. Now, with Seattle, on the other hand, I feel like they've regressed. And it's not because of offensively. I don't think it's because of Geno Smith. I don't believe it's totally all on Pete Carroll. But that defense, man, for Seattle is absolute trash. They're absolute trash. And they can't even stop the stinking run. Like, really? Like, your team, offensively, that's pretty good. You're putting Geno Smith out there, and you are writing, like, basically a comeback story for him where, like, nobody ever thought Geno Smith would have the season that he's having, and then you have a defense like that? Like, that's embarrassing. And I know Seattle's defense is not always great. They have not been good in quite a while, especially in the run. But this is like the time of year where they would start getting better against the run. But now they're just getting worse. Like if you thought they were bad in the earlier in the season, they're actually getting worse. And I think that's where Carolina can take advantage of. I think they can take advantage of that right here. So I'm taking the Panthers to win. I know Seattle's a tough place to play. I know Sam Darnold is very inconsistent. I know just because he had one game doesn't mean he's going to have a great game the next game. But we'll see how it goes. I think Sam Darnold could have a good game. I like Sam Darnold a lot. I like to see him succeed in this league. I like to see him get another chance with the Panthers and see what he can do. But, yeah, I'm taking the Panthers to win the straight up. And I will take the Panthers +4. I don't think that's too crazy to really think about. All right, 3 games left. Next, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the San Francisco 49ers. So this game probably would have been a little bit more interesting if Jimmy Garoppolo was playing in this game. Just going to throw that out there. I think with Brady and Brady's former backup quarterback of Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that would have been a kind of a nice storyline here to really see, like, with Tom Brady versus Kyle Shanahan and his former teammate and former backup of Jimmy Garoppolo and see how that would really work out. And if Brady goes 0-2 against his former, backup quarterbacks this season, that would have been kind of interesting to really see. But now that Jimmy G is not going to be in this game, it's going to be Brock Purdy, as we've heard right now, which he did have an impressive game against the Dolphins last week. But I think he's going to have a tougher matchup here because he knows he's not playing Tua. He knows he's not playing the Dolphins defense. He knows he's playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady and that really good defensive front. So I think he's aware that he's playing a very legit team. Okay? The record may not indicate it, but he knows they're a legit team and he knows Tom Brady means business. So it's a tough game. It's a very tough game for Brock Purdy. It's one of the earliest games that he's going to be playing this year in his young career. And it's a tough one. It's the toughest one he's probably going to face in his early career, depending on how long Brady decides to stay in the league. I'm a little surprised that Vegas took 3.5 for San Francisco to win. I'm a little bit surprised about that because I kind of thought that Vegas would have leaned more towards Brady. But I think Vegas really wants the 49ers to win because I think they want to see the Niners really make a Super Bowl run. And I think the Niners have every opportunity to make the Super Bowl this year. I think they have a good opportunity to really make a deep run in the playoffs. There's no question about it because they are pretty much a complete team. I mean, they have the coaching staff that's near perfect, I believe, in my opinion. Offensively, they got both Debo and they've got Christian McCaffrey in there. The quarterback position is a little bit suspect, but they've got Debo, Christian McCaffrey, they got George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Williams, that's, has been spotty a little bit this year, but he can get the job done a little bit. That offensive line that seems aging, but they've been doing well. I think they're better now that Trent Williams is back in that offensive line. Defensively, they're the best in the league, no question about it. Nick Bosa, some really good secondary. They do good in almost everything they do. And they're just a really good coach team. The Bucs, well, Tom Brady, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Rachaad White, who's probably going to be, I think he's going to be utilized more now than Leonard Fournette. Offensive line a little bit is a little suspect, but not terrible though. I think they've got a little bit better offensive line. Defensively, still has their injuries. Still has some things to really worry about, especially with the injury to Tristan Wirfs that got hurt in that one game a couple of weeks ago. Is, very, that definitely hurts them a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really good matchup. I like this one. This could potentially be one of the best games of the week. And if Brock Purdy puts up a good game against Tom Brady, you'll probably hear about this for the ages. Could be one of the best games of the year. Probably would have been better if Jimmy Garoppolo was in, but regardless, it could still be one of the best games of the year. Because of Tom Brady returning to San Francisco, the team that Brady could have gone to after he left New England, but decided not to and kept Jimmy G instead. The advantage of this is kind of like a revenge for Brady to, probably make Shanahan regret not taking him. Whatever the situation may be here, it's an interesting game. But I keep telling you, man, I cannot go against Tom Brady. I just can't. I'm going with the Bucs. I'm sorry, everybody. The 49ers, yes, they're going to make the playoffs. I guarantee they will make the playoffs. They will push for a late playoff run here. They may win their division. They may win their division if they can win some of their last few games, which I don't think they're going to have too much problems with winning the rest of their regular season games. With some of them, at least. I don't know all of them at the top of my head. But I'm taking the Bucs. I can't bet against Tom Brady. I can't pick against Tom Brady. I think this is the time where Tom Brady makes Kyle Shanahan, the GM, the owner, and everything to the San Francisco 49ers community regret with not taking him. So I'm taking the Bucs. but I'm not worrying about betting on this game because I think betting on this game would just be a little bit silly because it's a game that's like unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen in this game. So I'm not going to worry about betting on this game, but I'm taking the Bucks to win the straight up. But I might look into the over under on that game because I can guarantee you it could be like a very like last week with the Bucks playing the Saints. It could be like that kind of a game. It could be a low scoring game because of how good both defenses are. All right, two more games left. Next, we got Sunday Night Football with the Miami Dolphins, who are 3-point favorites to the Los Angeles Chargers. So thank you so much to the NFL. Thank you so much to scheduling the flex time spots of changing this game here, the Dolphins and Chargers, with the Chiefs and Broncos game. Thank you so much for letting that happen because there was no way I could stand watching another Broncos primetime game. No way. So thank you. I like this game a lot. Actually, I think this is one of my favorite games of the week. If you look at my thumbnail, I did have Tua and I have Justin Herbert as my thumbnail this week. I like this matchup a lot. I really think this is going to be one of the best games of the week next to the Bucks and 49ers. I like this game a lot, but I want to talk a little bit about it. So the Chargers, defensively, yeah, they're not very good. They're very susceptible to the run. They cannot stop the run for the life of them. Okay? So I'll admit that. But what the Chargers have proven that they can do, and what they are pretty good in, is secondary. They are pretty good in secondary. So they can play coverage pretty well. And I think they might match up well with some of the receivers. And if Jalen Waddle does not play in this game, which right now, Jalen Waddle, I believe I heard somewhere that he was questionable, which I'm going to double check on that, but I believe Jalen Waddle is questionable. No, he is healthy for this game, so it's not going to make too much of a difference here. I think they can match up okay with the passing game of the Dolphins. But I think if they can take away the passing game for the Dolphins, that will force the Dolphins to run the ball a little bit, which is something that the Dolphins have improved in, but they're still not very good in, if that makes kind of really any sense. I mean, they have Raheem Mostert and they have Jeff Wilson with, the running back aspect of things, but they're still not a great run first team. They're not a running first team. Their pass game, they're like long passes. That's what they really like to do. That's what their identity is. That's what Tua's like to do all year. That's what they like to do. That's typically what they want to do. However, you take a look at the Chargers. Austin Eckler can run the ball very well. I think they can really have success there with Austin Eckler. He can take advantage of the Dolphins' defense. I think they could also take advantage of the fact that Justin Herbert is also a beast, that he also can sling the ball down the field whenever he wants, whenever he wants to, and when he likes to. He'll get Keenan Allen back. He'll get Mike Williams back finally after losing him a couple of weeks after that Chiefs game. He'll finally get Mike Williams back. Hopefully, knock on wood, he will be healthier. So that will really help a lot with having Mike Williams back. Joshua Palmer, who's also getting involved more, which is good. And that's very important for this Chargers offense because of how susceptible they've been in the passing game as of late because of the absence of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I mean, Joshua Palmer is, he's stepping up to the plate. So that's something that's really good to see there. And they can run the ball very well. So that's something to really look into too. So do I pick the Dolphins to win this game, or do I think Justin Herbert gets himself back on track and they win this game? It's a tough one. It's a really tough game because I think both offenses, Dolphins offense is very good passing. And when the Chargers offense is good and they have everybody healthy, and when they are healthy, they are very, very good and very dangerous. But I think a lot of the setback for the Chargers this year is not just because of injuries, but a lot of it is because of Brandon Staley's, his coaching decisions, his play calling, and him not being as aggressive as he was last year with going for it on fourth down when it was most necessary. there had been a lot of times this year watching Chargers games where he's been so conservative with, and I think a lot of it was because of how injury ridden that they were this year, for them to be conservative the way they've been. So that's why I kind of worry a little bit with taking the Chargers in this game a little bit. But I think the Dolphins are just, I think right now, I think the Dolphins have the offense. I think they've got the playmakers. I think they've got the speed. And regardless of the run game, if they get the passing game going, which they should be able to get the passing game going, fairly well, that might challenge the Chargers a little bit. The Dolphins win this game. But it's a game I'm not willing to bet on. I might bet on the over-under because I think it could be a good offensive shootout, a real high-scoring game. Because I think both defenses are going to be very susceptible to each other in terms of run. That's something that's good with the Chargers, and pass, which is something good for the Dolphins. But I think the Dolphins will get the edge. I think they'll get the slight edge here. I think they'll win the game straight up. But I'm going to take the over-under on this game. I'm not going to take the +3. I'm not going to take the -3 either, really, for the Dolphins. And I'm not going to take the +3 for the Chargers because I think it's just too much to really think about at that time. So I'm going to take the Dolphins to win the straight up. But I'll take over. I will look at the over and under. That's what I would do. All right, next game, you've got the New England. Excuse me. Hold on 1 second. Alrighty, last game we've got the New England Patriots, 1.5-point favorites to the Arizona Cardinals. So, I want to try to keep this short, sweet, and to the point. I'm going with the Patriots here. Okay? Yes, I completely understand why the Patriots have not been playing well. I get that. They didn't play well. They didn't really close out the game against the Vikings, and they certainly did not play well against the Bills. I get that. But this is the time when the Patriots start to get hot. This is where they start to really figure out their schemes. Defensively for the the Cardinals, the Cardinals. Yes, their defense is solid, has been pretty solid within the last couple of weeks. But just taking a look at what the Cardinals, have been doing as of late, kind of concerns me a little bit as far as like leadership goes with Kyler Murray, where this coaching staff is leading to, especially if we're looking at, we're looking more at like Cliff Kingsbury, which I think this is going to be the year that he's probably going to get fired, which I think is rightfully so. And, I think it's, very concerning. But, for the Cardinals, especially in leadership, and I think with Bill Belichick, I think he'll get the defense going just fine. I think they do typically struggle normally against running quarterbacks, so that might be a little bit of a struggle, a little bit for the Patriots. But at the same time, too, I think Mac Jones can do just fine. I think he'll do fine with the play action plays with against the Cardinals defense, which is something they're kind of susceptible to a little bit with the run. I think they kind of struggle a little bit with play action passes, something that Mac Jones has had to get himself a little bit better at with doing as of late. So they may struggle with that a little bit. The Patriots also run the ball well. I think they can have some success there too. And I think Bill Belichick at the end of the day just comes up with a better game plan than the Cardinals. So I don't have a real logistic, reasoning behind why I think the Patriots are going to win. But I'm just saying they're going to win because I think it's just coaching staff. I think they have the capabilities of what they do well in, and that's why I think they win this game. So I'm going to take them to win. I'll take them to cover the spread, and that's what I'm going to do with that. So with all that being said, thank you, everybody. That is my Week 14 picks. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to drop a like on this video here. As soon as I pull up that lower third, please drop a like on this video. Leave a comment down below too, just to let me know as far as what you liked about this video. What would you like me to do better in the future? And let me know what you would like me to do with better content in the near future. Guys, if you have these conversations with me, I promise you, they will start to get better and better and better. So please do that. And if you're able to do so as well, please also hit that subscribe button as well here too. If you hit that subscribe button and if you hit the notification bell as well, I'm telling you, you will be able to tune into any content that you guys would like to hear about, whether it's about upcoming games that are coming up, whether if it's off season stuff, because we are approaching to the end of the season and we're going to be heading into the postseason soon. You want to talk about any of those kind of stuff? You want me to make videos about them or make some reactions about them? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section. If you do all these things, guys, I'm telling you, all will be better. So this channel is going to get better, I promise you. But I can't do it without your help. So please, like, comment, subscribe, notification bell. And with all that being said, everybody, thank you again for tuning in. I will see you all on Tuesday night when I do my Week 14 weekly recap. This is your boy, JP Football Fanatics, saying peace out, and we will see you all Tuesday night. Thank you, everybody. God bless.